Supporters of gun control often frame their position as common sense. But how strong are these arguments when examined carefully? In this video, I'll rank the most common pro-gun control arguments on a tier list, from logically compelling to rhetorically manipulative. More guns equals more gun deaths. This claim argues that more guns result in more gun-related deaths, which is sometimes true, but irrelevant. We care about overall violent deaths, not just gun deaths. If the claim was that guns result in more violent deaths, regardless of type, then it would be a logical argument. It would also be a false argument because the data does not support that. Therefore, proponents of this argument must specify gun deaths, resulting in the quintessential midwit argument, because ultimately, for the victim, death by gunshot or stab wound doesn't change much. NPC tier. Guns make conflicts more lethal. This claim argues that the presence of firearms escalates the degree of violence with lethal force. It's true, but it ignores three factors. First, guns are not the only form of lethal force that exists. Second, guns are a force equalizer. They give women, for example, a fair shot at winning against a far larger man. Violent criminals would generally be good at violence, so force equalizers for the rest of us who do not specialize in violence is welcome. But the third and most important factor is deterrence. The data here is strong. Just brandishing your weapon is an amazing deterrent. And a neighborhood well known for high gun ownership are typically not criminals' first choices for obvious reasons. Flawed tier. Conflicts may be more lethal, but there will be less of them. Background checks reduce issues. This claim argues that institutionalizing background checks to make sure you're not selling weapons to a criminal, drug addict, etc. is a good idea. And yeah, it seems like common sense to me. Even as pro-gun as I am, there are people I don't want armed. But let's be honest about this. The reason I don't want some people armed is because I consider them a threat, and without weapons, they are easily controlled. Now, you and I have good motives. We want a safe society. But those who claw their way into power might have more malicious motives, and they will be the ones that decide what qualifies as dangerous. Additionally, there's the issue of the black market. People willing to murder are probably fine with an illegal possession charge. It's you and me who are squeamish about breaking the law. These background checks should not make it harder for law-abiding citizens to get weapons, because then you'd just be hurting innocent people with minimal benefit. Strong tier though. Cars are regulated. Why not guns? This claim equalizes gun ownership with utilization of any equipment that can pose a threat to another's life. It fails to understand the simple fact. A gun is not a tool that can pose a threat if not operated safely. It's a weapon that's meant to. And more specifically in the modern world, it is the bare minimum weapon needed to be able to protect yourself and those around you. If you do not own a gun, your security is owed to the labor of another, as you will never be able to fight against someone who does have one. The decision to put your life in your own hands or the hands of another is a decision that each should have the right to make for themselves. Flawed tier. Just call the police. The irony that typically the same people calling for the defunding of the police are the ones saying that we can just rely on the police is not lost on me. That aside, what if your emergency services are slow? Life or death is a matter of seconds. You might not have the time to get the police. And here's the deeper issue. Do you really trust the state's morality? That they will defend your rights with no strings attached? This is an abyss tier argument. Guns can't stop fighter jets. This claim is a rebuttal to the American Second Amendment logic of using private gun ownership as a check on the state's power. They argue that militias, guerrilla warfare, insurgency, and asymmetric warfare would never work against such a powerful, technologically advanced army as we have nowadays. It's inconceivable, right? I tell you to buy a history book, but examples are so recent you don't need one. NPC tier. No one needs rapid fire. You might not need it, but someone might. For example, someone has to defend themselves against a swarm of people. It's been happening a lot recently. Alternatively, you might need it to defend yourself against someone who themselves have rapid fire. Just ban it, then no one has it, doesn't work. A black market exists. Look at Latin America. Almost a universal gun ban, and yet the cartels are as well armed as the military. In the end, it's the law-abiding citizen that suffers. Flawed tier. Other countries have strict laws. This is an irrelevant claim, appealing to what others do. Some countries have strict laws and high violence. Some have loose laws and low violence. Ultimately, people who say this just cherry-pick a country which reinforces their belief system and go with it. For any country you cherry-pick, I can cherry-pick one too, and then we're at a stalemate. NPC tier. Among these cherry-picked examples is the next argument. Drop in crime in places with gun control. This claim cherry-picks a few examples, like Australia or the UK, and simply ignores any reason there was a drop in crime other than a restriction on firearms, without proving a causal link. The UK and Australia, for example, already had steadily diminishing crime and a low baseline. And yet, Australia saw a stabilization, even slight growth, of homicides after the ban. This argument also implicitly assumes that crime statistics is the only factor to consider when choosing whether to tolerate guns. It is not. There are also valid cultural and political reasons, like the Americans' check on state power position, law tier. Guns are used for It's true, but so are over-the-counter drugs, razors, trains, and tall buildings. A gun might be more efficient, but when a gun isn't present, one can always make do. Not a valid reason to restrict the liberty of others. NPC tier. If it saves one life, it's worth it. This claim assumes that legalizing gun ownership is a net negative to preserving human life. At no point has this been proven, and much data shows the opposite is true. It's just a catchy slogan with no substance behind it. Perfect for NPC tier. If you support guns, you support school shootings. This claim takes a hyper-specific, tragic gun-related crime and makes it the center of the gun debate, while ignoring every other kind of crime which guns prevent in a proper, holistic approach. And it fails reversibility. I can do the same thing. If you don't support guns, you support mass stabbings. See how ridiculous this sounds? There are no perfect solutions. Everything is a trade-off. Abyss tier. It's powerful rhetoric, but pure manipulation. Proponents of gun control have a worldview that can make sense within their context, likely growing up in safe, high-trust communities, where the only real risk is someone losing their mind and doing something irrational. But not all of us live in such circumstances. Many of us are forced to contend in a world where predation and malice are real, and when those in safe environments try to legislate the rest of us, it sabotages our safety in a way that they might never understand. That concludes the tier list. If there are any other arguments we'd like to see ranked, please share them in the comments below.